concept of human design gives rise to a most highly honored and respected set of various professions, from architectural design ideas with special building methods and systems to physical fitness training and speculations about healthy procreation and child rearing, with arguments about optimum educational programs. The amazing array of different levels of skill can be utterly astonishing when flabbergasting energies are released with phenomenal technique. Even humble design systems can prove effective as a solution to a problem and can be adaptable for larger scale needs. Historically, a class of high and mighty intelligentsia discriminated over all their labor forces, but we now realize the resistance against their abuses. The rationale for human endeavor always starts out with practical necessity, but it evolves towards pleasure, fulfillment, and satisfaction of achievement. Essential things can be glamorized, and so frequently are, because that raises value. The efforts engaged need to find the target buyer who most appreciates the work. I have to consider seriously the difference between individual influence with creative active behavior and team conferencing, where many smart, knowledgeable characters work to fashion plans for architecture or governing strategies. There would be no sanity in ruling out such a pattern, and clearly fascism and dictatorship are often usually the disastrous results of trying to wholly dismiss a select group of individuals coming together to formulate optimum modes of operation. It's great to have highly successful, effective individuals, but also super essential is appreciating multiple points of view and sophisticated arguments, because one person can make mistakes and miss essential details that should not be overlooked. Fearlessly pursuing facts, standing up for journalists' First Amendment right to ask questions on behalf of the American people. Trump says, "I love uneducated people and I love losers." This tallies with statistics that show a decline in educational standards under his crazy Trump dictatorship, where so many important freedoms are being interfered with. Kids are not being properly taught to question authority. This tallies with Trump having been a child rapist when he was friends with Epstein. They mustn't object, but only submit and surrender. All of the No Kings protest is outrage against that abusive intention, which pretends that it's everybody else who are wrong, but never the demented, ever-worsening Donald the self-important Trump card. Read at a glance $24,846,826 CEO pay at Tomahawk missile manufacturer RTX, up 38% over 2024. No Kings demonstrators displayed shoes symbolizing the more than 160 Iranian girls who died in a February 28th Tomahawk attack. A Los Angeles jury found in favor of a now 20-year young woman who charged that Meta had deliberately designed Facebook and Instagram to hook kids as young as 6 into using the apps compulsively. Up to 16 hours in a single day led to depression and self-harm. Zuckerberg's personal fortune peaked at $264 billion last October and then began dropping. Last week ended with his net worth down to $187 billion. 2024 book documents corporations buying up more and more of America's food supply chain. How is this affecting how much money American families are spending on food and the quality of that food? They're paying more for lower quality food. Everyone is seeing that the system does not work. I show how much more average Americans spend on groceries than their Western peers. Concentrated markets price gouge. I want people to understand that they're paying more for lower quality. At least 16 U.S. billionaires owe their wealth to one of America's 20 largest low-wage employers. Corporations where a significant share of workers earn so little they have to rely on public assistance. 8 of these billionaires owe their good fortune to Walmart. Amazon and Tyson Foods have 2 members in this elite club, while Home Depot, Best Buy, Starbucks, and Chipotle each have 1. Median worker pay at these firms ranges from $14,674 at Starbucks to $43,417 for Tyson's meat processors. $433 million, the combined midterm campaign spending by 50 billionaire families. Elon Musk is the largest donor so far, with almost $71 million in election contributions. Democracy, not oligarchy. The hidden architecture of musical instruments, parametric architecture. What does the architecture of sound look like from within? Australian cellist and photographer IG @ Charles Cellist captures the hidden interiors of musical instruments through endoscopic lenses and focused stacked imaging. Inside pianos, Stradivarius violins, cellos, flutes, and brass instruments, intricate cavities unfold as vast, cathedral-like spaces of wood, metal, and tensioned strings. These images reveal more than structure. Maker's marks, repairs, and layers of patina trace decades of use, transforming each instrument into a spatial archive of craft and performance. A reminder that architecture is not only built for inhabitation, but also for resonance. Wow, some of those photos are really cool. Some of the pianos really look like big sci-fi buildings, and some of the guitars look so much like cozy rooms that one has tried to adapt to create a cozy room in the real world. I'll let this lovely catalog of photos run while I read a fresh email from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Just look at what Republicans have been doing in Congress. They have been voting to advance cuts on hundreds of billions of dollars from Medicaid, veterans benefits, and Social Security so that they can give it to the billionaires who elected them in the form of tax cuts and sweetheart government contracts to companies like SpaceX. They know that it is deeply unpopular. They know that it hurts you, but they are not here to serve us. They are here to serve themselves and the billionaires who have paid them, oligarchy. They know that the only chance they have to get away with such an unpopular agenda, to get away with stealing in plain view, is to stoke deep divisions among us along lines of race, identity, and culture to keep us distracted. This has been the big money playbook, not just now, but for generations. And that is why Donald Trump is not an aberration. He is the logical and inevitable conclusion to an American political system that has been dominated by corporate and dark money. And if we are here to defeat him, we must defeat the system that created him. Bold solutions. Make America healthy again. Start by breaking up Big Ag. Despite Donald Trump's promises on the campaign trail, he has done little to help Americans get healthier. In fact, he has sided with factory farms and pesticide producers at every turn. Through steady corporate consolidation, Big Ag continues to poison America's farms and produce while driving up profit margins. Let's just look back at some fine images of the 2026 Winter Olympics in February in Cortina, Italy now, while I carry on ranting about the Trump health betrayals. If Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. really wanted to take making our country healthy again seriously, they would be moving to break the stranglehold that corporate titans hold over food production. They would directly confront power, writes food researcher Amanda Claire Starbuck, and diminish Big Ag's power to dodge regulations and evade culpability for making us all sick. Sarah Anderson for the Institute for Policy Studies, inequality.org team. A rich man's war. The world's richest man just happened to pop up on a call the other day between the leaders of the United States and India. The White House isn't saying why Elon Musk dialed into the Trump-Modi convo on Iran, but with the world's richest billionaire aiming to expand operations in India, it's hardly surprising that he tried to grease the wheels by horning in on this high-level tete-a-tete. Rich men certainly do have a knack for turning war to their advantage. Look at billionaire Jared Kushner. His father-in-law made him a Mideast envoy, and ever since he's been busily using that gig to hit up Arab leaders for private equity investments. And military contractor CEOs are pocketing even fatter paychecks thanks to our bloated Pentagon budget. Meanwhile, with the Iran conflict death tolls climbing, the war's sky-high economic costs are slamming ordinary Americans. Our colleague Chisholm Okorafor points out that Gen Zers like her were already less financially secure than previous generations. Now the Iran excursion is making a tough job market even more brutal. Must reads: Mark Kreidler, more states are taxing the ultra-rich. Washington is the latest, capital in Maine. Washington state's governor has signed into law legislation that applies a 9.9% tax rate to personal income above $1 million. The state estimates the new levy will impact 20,000 of Washington's richest households. Troy Wolverton, billionaire tax author pushing for bigger, broader levy on the ultra-wealthy. San Francisco Examiner, a University of California Berkeley tax expert, is proposing an innovative new approach to taxing the wealth of America's wealthiest that could avoid a U.S. Supreme Court veto. Giovanni Legarano, the world's tax the rich debate is heating up. Foreign policy efforts to combat income and wealth inequality are advancing across the United States and Europe. Let's look at my photos of beauty spots from around the local neighborhood last April to see what pleasant delights we expect to enjoy this month. Enjoy the viewing, and here's 6 more must-reads in this list from inequality.org. Usama Andrabi, AI is the new APAC. The Nation. Artificial intelligence industry billionaires have now created our nation's latest corporate lobbying giant. David Sirota, even oligarchs know the system is rigged, that even Wall Streeters like Anthony Scaramucci and Lloyd Blankfein are now blasting away at wealth inequality shows just how far our political conversation has shifted. Louisa Clarence Smith, American billionaires prepare for tax the rich wildfire. The Times. Billionaires like Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, are starting to see pitchforks in America's future. The country could blow up politically, and none of us are going to make any money when the country blows up. John Miller, the undertaxed rich, dollars and cents. Mitt Romney's call to raise the taxes the rich like him pay has rendered the Wall Street Journal editors apoplectic. They claim that America's rich are bearing an unreasonably high tax burden, a claim that immediately collapses under anything near close scrutiny. Arlana Bindman, hundreds of millionaires are trying to escape the U.S. SF Gate. Growing numbers of Americans are obtaining golden visas, an extremely expensive and highly controversial form of residency abroad inaccessible to average Americans. Livia Gianotti, rich people won't give their money unless you reward them. Brian Eno, on redistributing wealth and using his art to make connections. The super-rich, charges globally famed artist Brian Eno, have so far been incredibly useless in supporting philanthropic causes. Random amazing fact of human exploration and achievement using science, engineering, and courage. The deepest dive by a human in a submarine is 10,927 meters. This remarkable feat was achieved by Victor Vescovo, an American private equity investor, retired naval officer, and an explorer. He descended to the very bottom of the Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the world's oceans, located in the western Pacific Ocean. The dive took place in May 2019, and Vescovo spent nearly 4 hours exploring the ocean floor in his submersible, named the Limiting Factor. The dive broke the previous record held by filmmaker James Cameron in 2012, who reached a depth of 10,908 meters. The 10,927 meters depth is comparable to Mount Everest being placed underwater. To withstand the immense pressure at such depths, the Limiting Factor was built with a titanium hull and advanced technology. During his venture, Vescovo discovered new species of marine life and collected samples for scientific research. However, he also observed plastic waste, highlighting the issue of pollution even in the most remote corners of the Earth. Vescovo's dive symbolizes both the incredible feats of human exploration and our growing understanding of the deep-sea environment. Should the US withdraw from global trade agreements, economic independence versus global integration? The debate surrounding the United States' participation in global trade agreements has intensified in recent years, with strong arguments on both sides. Proponents of withdrawing from these agreements often cite the desire for economic independence, while supporters of global integration emphasize the benefits of interconnected trade. As the U.S. navigates its role in the world economy, understanding the various perspectives on this issue is crucial for shaping future policies. Arguments for withdrawal from global trade agreements. One of the primary arguments is the belief in economic independence. Critics argue that these agreements can undermine national sovereignty and allow foreign nations to dictate terms that may not serve the American economy. They contend that domestic industries suffer when competition from abroad floods the market, leading to job losses, wage stagnation, and the decline of manufacturing sectors. Some argue that global trade agreements can create trade imbalances that favor other countries. The U.S. has run substantial trade deficits with nations like China, which some view as a sign of economic vulnerability. By stepping back from these agreements, advocates suggest that the U.S. could focus on rebuilding its manufacturing base and prioritizing American jobs. Additionally, there is concern about the regulatory standards that come with global trade agreements. Critics argue that these standards can dilute U.S. labor and environmental protections, as countries with lower standards can take advantage of the arrangement. In this view, withdrawing from global trade agreements could allow the U.S. to maintain higher standards for labor and the environment. Arguments for maintaining global trade agreements. In stark contrast, supporters of global trade agreements argue that they are essential for economic growth and stability. They claim that these agreements create opportunities for American businesses by opening new markets for exports. By engaging in international trade, U.S. companies can reach a wider customer base, which can lead to increased revenues and job creation. Advocates also highlight the importance of global trade for consumer choice and pricing. By allowing goods and services to flow freely across borders, consumers benefit from a greater variety of products at competitive prices. This can lead to better living standards as individuals have access to a broader array of goods that might not otherwise be available domestically. Furthermore, proponents argue that participation in global trade agreements can enhance diplomatic relations. Economic interdependence can foster cooperation among nations, reducing the likelihood of conflict. By working together through trade agreements, countries may be more inclined to resolve disputes peacefully and collaboratively. Balancing economic independence with global integration. The challenge lies in finding a balance between economic independence and global integration. Some experts suggest that instead of completely withdrawing from global trade agreements, the U.S. should renegotiate terms to better protect American interests. This approach allows the country to benefit from the advantages of trade while addressing the concerns regarding job losses and regulatory standards. For instance, proponents of renegotiation argue for more stringent labor and environmental provisions in trade agreements. By advocating for higher standards, the U.S. can ensure that trade does not come at the expense of its workforce or the environment. This middle ground approach seeks to reconcile the benefits of trade with the need for protectionism. Additionally, a focus on regional trade agreements could be a viable compromise. By entering into agreements with neighboring countries, the U.S. can strengthen its economic ties while maintaining a degree of control over trade policies. This strategy can enhance regional stability and create mutually beneficial economic relationships without fully committing to global trade agreements. The impact of technology and globalization. As technology advances and globalization continues to evolve, the landscape of global trade is changing. Automation and digitalization have transformed industries. leading to new economic realities that complicate the debate over trade agreements. On one hand, technological advancements can enhance productivity and efficiency, allowing US companies to compete more effectively in the global market. This perspective supports the idea that maintaining global trade agreements can benefit American businesses by providing access to innovative technologies and practices from around the world. Conversely, rapid technological changes can also lead to job displacement, particularly in manufacturing and low-skill sectors. Some argue that this disruption makes it even more critical for the US to prioritize economic independence. By focusing on domestic job creation and investing in workforce development, the US can better equip its citizens to thrive in a changing economy. The political landscape. The political climate in the US plays a significant role in shaping opinions about global trade agreements. Political polarization has influenced the discourse, with some parties embracing protectionist measures while others advocate for free trade. This division often reflects broader ideological beliefs about the role of government in the economy and the importance of global cooperation. Supporters of withdrawal from trade agreements often align with nationalist sentiments, emphasizing the importance of prioritizing American workers and industries. This perspective has gained traction in certain political circles, leading to calls for more restrictive trade policies. On the other hand, those in favor of global trade agreements often argue that international collaboration is essential for addressing global challenges such as climate change, security threats, and economic instability. They contend that withdrawing from such agreements could hinder the US's ability to influence global policy and leadership. So why did Trump insist on US withdrawing from global trade agreements and applying tariffs systematically? It's complicated and multifaceted. One point is that most agreements these days seem to be relatively provisional and not absolute because there can be deal breakers arising if something unacceptable surfaces or arises after concluding the agreement. Russia was in an agreement to not invade or attack Ukraine, and they obviously violated that agreement. Those national leaders who violate important agreements are pariahs and even war criminals. Agreements cannot be only one-sided. We cannot rely only on artificial intelligence to lighten our workload because it is flawed technology still being pioneered. There are problems associated with privacy of personal information and matters related to lawful activities. We want more beneficial results to be enjoyed, but this present stage of development leaves us with deep rifts of suspicion and mistrust. A lot of the speculation is based on China and the varied levels of quality in latest technology and systems operations. America had a major war against slave labor enforcement. People will not go backwards to anything like that, and there is a battle to raise minimum wage. Many things have to be determined according to individual feelings because one size does not fit all. The eagerness and greed of the upper-class business owners perpetrates crimes against the worthy, hard-working people. Sure, there are slackers who will not commit to regular, daily, virtuous, gainful employment, and some who are insufficiently fit. There are efforts to encourage improvements in all those who may be able to respond to such endeavors. Speakers can have sly agendas behind why they say what they claim, highlighting concerns about job losses, trade imbalances, and regulatory standards is a way of appealing to workers pretending that economic independence can operate in an imaginary vacuum or void that doesn't need to interact with the different regions of the world. Trump interferes with every region wherever he goes, looking to privilege his own business interest over the American people and others, while claiming to love and care for voting Republican citizens to represent their best interests. He nonetheless helps Netanyahu, Putin, Argentina, and Orban more than U.S. citizens who are forced to pay climbing gas prices now, emphasizing economic growth, consumer benefits, and diplomatic relations, tends to urge for maintaining global integration. As the U.S. navigates this debate, it is essential to consider the potential consequences of either approach and explore avenues for compromise. Ultimately, the decision will shape not only the U.S. economy, but also its role in the global community. I'm tending to feel disappointed by the effort to popularize artificial intelligence. So much is said about intelligence and the history of divide and conquer. Science is constantly pushing at the frontiers of our natural environments. The idea that governments need to regulate the extents of their greed and lust for more power is fine, well and good, but asking the same greedy devils to be the ones who will be trusted to regulate their seemingly uncontrollable lusts is madness and folly. So that's this week's episode with heavy political contentions, some fabulous design, wonderful sports, speculations on international trade relations, and lovely reinvigorating well-managed natural environment. I hope you enjoyed the artistic seasonal content. Do like, subscribe, and comment, and check back next week.